All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Monday, April 19th. So, a little bit of volatility today. Finally, a little bit of downside action. We got pretty overbought in the S&P, something that I think a lot of people had their eye on as we ended last week. We've been on this really nice tear to the upside in S&P. However, the word that I used in the TTG member videos is from this weekend is that we're extended. Right, we're extended on the daily time frame up to the RSI got up to about a 75, right? So relative strength index got to a 75. We're back down to a 72. I think now what we want to do is just kind of have some patience, watch for some things to kind of show some positive signals. By the way, everything that we're going through in this video is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. This video is for education purposes only. So yeah, it becomes a couple things that I'm watching. This was a stat that I tweeted out on Friday, was that we've got this 2021 theme, right? SPY, and seasonality very strong in April, but for a lot of this, for the seasonality, a lot of it is the first half of the month. For example, 2021, we've seen SPY love the first half of the months on average so far for the first 4 months, up 4%. Right, so for the first of the month to the 15th of the month, and then the second half of the month, which we only have 3 data points so far, but down 1.4% for the month. So we are now officially in the second half of the month of April, and so far it's kind of living up. First day of the week, and you see SPY finish down. Not that bad, just 44 basis points, but again, just a little bit different. Or maybe this is, I have one system that's showing down about a 0.5%, another one that's showing down 44 basis points. So I don't know which one's off, but let's just say 0.4%. The Qs were down a little bit more, down close to 1%. IWM down 1.2%, so a little bit more damage done in the small caps for the day. Bonds were not really a factor for the day. They were down 30 basis points. Gold, silver, same story there, and the VIX was up 6%. So, yeah, I think this is just something that I wanted to stress on Friday. I also wanted to stress in the weekend member videos, which I did. I talked about my overall risk taking right now. My rating, just to share that with this public video, is low right now. It's not only just because of that stat. Remember, whenever I kind of do my market analysis, there's a lot of different points that I look at, not just one, but that is one of them. And number two, we're now in the heart of earnings season, so that to me also is just either a choppier time or just a little bit more difficult time in the market. So take it for what it is. Now, again, this doesn't mean nothing is guaranteed, but I would rather honor the pattern and the observation until it's not. Somebody made a comment to me this this weekend, and then they proceeded to block me, which I thought it was funny. But they're like, "This is the worst analysis ever." I'm like, it just is what it is. It's my job, and I think it's our jobs as traders, investors, is to observe what's going on to the market and not be perma anything, right? We've talk a lot about that, in terms of trading, and what my job is to do basically as a risk manager is to observe when there's a pattern to things, or when the market is signaling something to me that it's doing something different, right? We've talked about as well that there's been some divergence in Nasdaq breadth, right? Which looks a lot different, right? There's nothing. So what we look to do when we're watching things like the advanced decline line, right, which looks at overall market breadth, right? We'll look at the first one for S&P. We're either looking for confirmation or divergence, right? In the S&P advanced decline line, we've got confirming data here. When we look at this in terms of the advanced decline line for Nasdaq, right, this was diverging last week, right? The Nasdaq was making new highs, but but the overall advanced decline line was not making new highs. That's called divergence. So gave us a little bit of a warning signal coming into the week, and we'll see how long this materializes. And really, that's the best that we could do for now, and watch some levels. So if we go back to the S&P for a minute, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Nasdaq. But we've got a nice. We did come back and check back to support. This was a chart that I sent out to members pre-market, talking about if we continued with a little bit of a move down, 41.45 would be the first level of support. So for now, we're holding that level of support. And when we kind of break a little bit of this upside momentum, the best thing for me to do as more of a swing trader, right? It all depends on what type of trader you are. If you're really good at day trading, then this may be the market for you. If for me, I'm more of a swing trader, so I try to sit on my hands and kind of observe and not trade as much, right? More kind of take note of what areas of the market, once everything dips a little bit, what areas come back first, what areas stay weak. Right, so relative strength, relative weakness. So that's kind of was the story for the day, and I had just mentioned that a couple times in the trading room that I was more or less just managing some existing positions that I have on from last week without adding too much until we kind of just get more of a sense of what direction this market wants to go in, and it may just be a little bit of chop for the next couple weeks too. So that to me says be a little bit more defensive this week and next week, and look for some scalp trades, which I didn't really do too much of today. I didn't really have a major day trade on. I tried a little bit of I tried to kind of bottom feed a couple things, but this didn't work, and I knew it right away. I also wanted to put on this GRBK, which I think looks pretty good. So this is a home builder, right? I wanted to get involved in this name. At least to establish a position. Not a lot going on here for the day, but I just really like the volume here on the up days. So I'm looking for this thing to break out a bit. So that was the one name that I really positioned in as a swing trade for the day. Went back and forth with applied materials position. So while the S&P is holding it, and let me just go back to this level one more time, and then we'll talk about some individual sectors and some stocks for the day. But yeah, 41.45. Now, what happens if we break into value for the week? Well, then I get a little bit more defensive. But we don't know right now if this is going to kind of retake and get back to where we were Friday's levels and maybe go back above, or if we're going to break down and see a little bit more volatility. So until one of those things happens, I kind of just, wait a little bit, right? It's one of the things that you kind of learn with maturity as a trader, sometimes just to sit back. You don't have to be busy all the time, right? And really press. When you're not getting clear signals, it's okay to sit back a little bit and try to pick up on what the next move is going to be. All right, that's kind of what I tried to do today. But it's got stopped out of that trade. I have a decent amount of cash balance right now, so I'm just looking for things to kind of park some money in. I like Pepsi, right? So not so much of like a big trade that to put in. Just the fact that I think the consumer staples will hold up a little bit better right now, rather than just being straight up cash. And I like the pattern. This name had earnings last week and looks like it's trying to resolve higher. Right. Crowd, I took a target, thank goodness, right around the open. I was looking for Crowd, a name that I got into towards the end of last week, to get up. I think 224 was my target, but it just didn't get there. So I took a target at 222. And again, I try to always, on entry of my trades, map out where I'm going to take targets, but at the same time, you got to be flexible too, right? If something like this happens where the market starts to get hit, you take a target and then you could always add it back. So that's what I did, is I added that back. And then of course I'm going to have to really pay attention if we get more volatility this week. Probably 208 around that level will be my stop for that trade. Another name that I was looking for, and basically a group that I was looking for to see, to get me, more bullish, and to say, hey, this market wants to go higher is to note the semiconductors, right? So the semiconductors a couple weeks ago really got going, and they kind of started to put in a bull flag, but they just never resolved higher. So I was giving it the benefit of the doubt and being patient, thinking that this could resolve higher. But you can see what happened today. They were one of the worst performing groups. So again, this is not, now it did fill this gap, right? And there's some support here. So it'll be a sector to remain to continue to watch. But on first attempt, this did not go the way that for a really bullish market to end up going, which would be to the upside. So I was in one name left because I sold my ENTG on Friday, which looked to be a good move. But I was still long applied materials. A member asked me about the 20-day moving average. He said, "Hey, is this a good place to try a trade?" Well, in my opinion, it is if it holds, right? Just because we touch the 20-day moving average in an uptrend, it doesn't mean every time it's going to hold. So what we look for always is confirmation, right? You touch that 20-day moving average, and we like to see a bounce. So we haven't seen that yet, and we'll watch for that tomorrow. What happened to me in this name? Once it went below 130, that was my stop price. I got out. It actually got above there at the end of the day, so I put a little bit of a position back on. Because I said I was going to do it, right? So again, plan out what you're going to do, and once it happens, I'm going to follow it. So I put the position back on here. All right, VMware. This was a position that we got into a couple weeks ago. I left the very last piece of the trade on, and I got out of that today. There's still, just the way this market is, I got a little chicken. I wanted to get 173. But that's fine in the options. But this was a nice trade, and yeah, you're going to be hitting a little bit of resistance in here. So this was a nice move today, up 3.6% when the overall Nasdaq is down. Again, we're just seeing where there's an appetite in this market for tech, right? And if you look at IBM after hours, let's see where IBM is. But it just, to me, just tells me that the market has appetite for this stuff right now. Low volatility technology, technology that has dividends, right? If you look at Oracle, right? Oracle was down on the day, but you could see some of these areas. Look at Dell today too. Besides VMware, Dell was up another 2%. So, this is this is where there's strength right now in technology. And just to kind of go over a few other sectors. So we talked about semis, which I don't particularly like the price action in semis. That also doesn't make me feel better about this market in the short term. So that's one area of the market. And then looking at these ARK funds are really interesting for signals. Right, so you don't have to own these. You don't have to have a major opinion on the ARK funds and the manager, but it's super high growth, right? And what I've started to use these things as is to kind of be able to say if you're having if it's going to be a strong growth name or if it's going to be a really weak growth name. And for now, these funds continue to underperform the market. So regardless of what you want to happen, these things look like one of the weakest areas of the market right now, right? And again, look at the S&P, strong, breaking out, a little bit of a hiccup today, still holding the short-term trend, but you look at, high growth names, and right now the market just is not in love with this group right now. So, it got rejected at the top of value, also the 50-day moving average, and a lot of names I see that, are in the bucket of what I refer to as super high growth, as not earning, revenues yet, or not earning profits yet, and or if they do have some profits, very little, right? And the market is not rewarding those companies right now. So we've talked about how this goes in cycles and in stages. For now, this group is just not where the momentum is. How many times have I said that now? But the reason why I'm being very adamant about that is because when I see people, when I see traders post watch lists and so forth, this weekend, for example, I still see a lot of people posting all high growth names. So don't get why, honestly, that there are so many traders infatuated with this group right now, because there's just other things in the market that are doing better. So you have to ask yourself, right, how stubborn are you going to be with high growth here, right? You can look at other areas of the market in the short term, like even if you don't love, and it doesn't, like, what I'm referring to is not all value. It's sometimes it's a little bit lower growth names, right? Which I wouldn't exactly put in the bucket of value, but you don't have to fall in love with those names in the long term. But if there's trades to do, you know, and if those names are going to continue to go up again, so this is something that we've talked about now for weeks to months, but I'll still kind of mention this because I still see so many people that are still just so infatuated with high growth, and I don't, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, given that the underperformance over the last, not just a couple weeks now we're talking about, but we're talking about a couple months, right? So it is what it is, right? I mean, that's kind of, I think the value of our analysis is just being objective and being able to realize that right now this group isn't where it's at, but we will continue to monitor. I've got my favorite names in these groups, and instead of doing a whole lot of trading and buying, just sitting on the sidelines and waiting for a little bit more confirmation. All right, so that's our video for tonight, and obviously we'll continue to pay attention to what the market is signaling us versus what we want, and it could be a very conservative week. Also, I think what's important this week, right, is also to pay attention to how companies are reporting. What names are going to come out of this earnings cycle that are going to be the market leaders for the next quarter, right? That's really one of the things that I really want to pay attention to this week, and we're going to find some good trades, hopefully, for that. All right, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.